So yeah, we're in my Facebook group, a few other places, but yeah, I'll wait for a few people to hop on. But yeah, so I got Doug Mitchell with me here today. For those who don't know, he's got. Why don't you introduce yourself? So who is Doug Mitchell and what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Well, first off, thanks for having me on. It's an honor, man. Been seeing everything you've been doing across social media, and you're crushing building your machine, and you got your event coming up. I'm excited about speaking at that, so looking forward to it. But now I've been in direct sales for 13 years now. I started out in door-to-door sales, selling AT&T door-to-door, right? And moved up into management and eventually owner financed the company. At the time, we had like 5 or 6 sales reps, and so I took over the company, fired them all because they were no good,
Yeah,
and over the next couple of years, built out the company using the sales program that I had designed, and we got up to 110 salespeople and 5 million in commissions annually, and I've been running sales orgs ever since. Recently, more recently, I've been going heavy into consulting. So I'm helping all kinds of different companies build out their sales programs. Like, I'm doing a high end security company. I just got an engagement letter from what is it called? The graphics, like the window tint and the graphics for the
oh yeah,
vehicles and stuff like that. And I need to learn little bit more about that product. But residential turf, all kinds of stuff, And so I'm just having fun consulting for other companies and traveling across the country doing that.
that's badass, man. But yeah, man, I'm super excited to have you on, man. I appreciate you making time for us, and yeah, super excited to have you at the event. Got the little backdrop thing set up there. I was trying to make it cool and do it, but didn't get it set up the right way.
It's all good.
But yeah, man, no, I'm hyped for the event, man. It's gonna be a great time. But yeah, so man, I love sales. It's one of my favorite things, and it really it's what changed my life around was getting into sales. So, how did you first get into sales?
Dude, I was probably 15 years old and I got recruited by Vector Marketing. You
Mm-hmm.
remember those guys?
Are they the ones with knives or no?
Yeah, Cutco
Yeah,
knives.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think everybody did when they were younger. I was the
Mm-hmm.
only one that actually went out and did it and like knocked doors. And I was kind of successful at it, but obviously I was in school, so it was different. But I always had that audacity, that ability to be able to knock on a door of a stranger, right? And then I got back into sales when I did what did I do? I did real estate.
Mm-hmm.
I was a marketing manager for a real estate company. The guy had over 300 listings, and so that was marketing more than anything, and then getting back into sales with the door to door company that I eventually owner financed and took over.
That's badass, man. Yeah, I
Yeah,
never did Vector, but I did Kirby. Was like one of my first sales jobs,
yeah,
and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like I thought I was the smartest dude in the room because I'm like, oh, I was there, and then every day in the training there was less and less people, and I'm
hmm
like, oh, these people are all dumb. I don't know, they're all leaving me. It seems like a great job, and then but yeah, and then yeah, I didn't stay long. So I was one of those who didn't. I stuck around to the end, and there was last day was just like me and like the other guy who was like the dumbest one in the
hmm
room. And I'm like, oh, so I'm like, oh, what does this say about me? If it's this
yeah,
guy, I thought he was the
exactly.
dumb one. I'm the only one left, and
hmm
but yeah, and I mean, props to you for sticking around. And yeah, I think most people like quit. Like I was in there, I quit too, and then most people quit in that. But I think door knocking is probably one of the I've done it a couple times, but it's not something I've really done.
hmm
Um, where do you think most people fail with door knocking? What any tips do you have for people getting started in door knocking?
It's I mean, let's be like realistic. For 95% of the population, it's just not sustainable.
Hmm.
It's not a sustainable position in sales, right? And so, what I was really good at is developing a sales program that allowed my people to not just, they may door knock for like 6 months,
Hmm.
but then they were moving into training,
Mm.
right? And then they were moving into leadership, you know, and then they could move into, maybe high ticket items with leads coming in and stuff like that. So there's always, one of the biggest parts of my sales program, which I labeled CODOC, right? Compensation, opportunity development, operations, and culture. The opportunity piece is incredibly important. Especially when you're looking at an entry level sales position that is somewhat of a grind,
Mm.
then you're going to want an opportunity structure in place where, all right, they're coming in, they're going to do the grunt work for a little while, but then they know that there's an opportunity to get promoted. It's kind of like an internship at a high end law firm. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like this person just passed the bar. They should be making 100 grand a year at some, law firm, but they're going to the high end one, and they're going to be somebody's bitch for like 6 months. You know what I mean? But then they're going to be offered like junior partner or something like that, and they're going to have so much more opportunity from it. So the opportunity structure in any sales programs incredibly important.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. 'Cause I feel like a lot of people feel like, oh, I don't want to do the same thing forever, and just knowing they have room to grow and they can advance. And I feel like everybody wants to develop and get better in life, or at least most salespeople.
Yeah, absolutely.
But honestly, I'll say we got a few comments, and yeah, if you guys have any questions, make sure to drop them in the comment section. We'll make sure we get to you guys. But we got a few people hopping on. We got Irvin and a few other people. I can't see who they are because Restream doesn't show me unless you go in and they put their name on. But appreciate you guys.
Yeah, that's one of the tough things about these streaming service deals is they don't show you everybody that's on.
Yeah, I try to have Facebook up on the side too, but yeah, I usually end up missing a couple of them. But yeah, any questions, drop them. We're happy to answer them for you. So, what do you think separates? Yeah, I know you mentioned that with Kodak. What do you think separates like a regular sales team or below average sales team from a great sales team? What makes a great sales team?
Sustainability. I'm probably the only owner of a sales org that did AT&T for 13 years. You know, a lot of people in my industry, what happens is they come in, they do really well in sales, and maybe they make 50, 60 grand, and then they start getting recruited by other sales opportunities, right? It's the story as old as time. And anytime somebody is willing to work for commission only, they're going to get recruited every day. But they trick themselves into thinking that it's because of them. It's not just the simple fact that they're willing to do commission only, right? So the issue with that is it's like when you go into anything. If you do it for 6 months and then you dip, like you're not going to learn very much. You're going to keep jumping from place to place. We used to call them hoppers, right? They jump from job to job, never really getting deep into one product or one customer base or one customer avatar that they could really hone their skills and end up scaling from there in terms of personal income or in terms of management. And so I think what separates great sales teams is the people or the cultures that are able to hold on to those people and educate them early on and help them understand that, hey, you're in commission sales now. Everybody's going to be knocking at your door. Everybody's going to be DMing you. Everybody's going to be saying, hey, I've got higher commissions, or hey, I've got this. Teaching your people how to actually audit a sales program and understand that, hey, the opportunity isn't always in the commission. Maybe it's in the opportunity structure, or it's in the product. Maybe that product is hotter than any other product out there right now. And even though the commission is 25, 30%, I know I'm going to sell more, right? So the high ticket items are sexy, right? But you're going to sell them a lot less. It's like comparing solar to maybe working for a wholesaler in your case, right? So those high ticket items sound sexy, 6 grand, 7 grand commission sounds sexy, but I can go out and get Kai, 20 leads in a day, and he pays me 100 grand for each lead, or 100 grand, $100 for each lead. And I can make 2 grand a day doing that. You know what I'm saying? And so as long as they're qualified, right. And they're quality leads. So I think that's the difference is education 100% is the difference between mediocre sales teams and great sales teams.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. I love that. Now, I know a common thing people love to say in sales, and I was curious on your thoughts on it, is that, that guy is like a natural born salesman, or he's just, naturally good at sales. Do you think, I know obviously some people do come in and hit the ground running. Do you think everyone can do sales, so everyone can learn it, or do you think it's only a certain personality type?
So yes, I think everybody can do sales. It's getting hot in my office over here. I got the lights on now. I think everybody can do sales. And I think more importantly, if you want volume in your sales organization and you want a strong sales program, you have to be able to teach someone that can walk and chew gum how to sell your product, right? We all know the typical salesperson, and there's 4 personality types when it comes to sales, right? And there's the customer's personality and the buyer's personality. And certain personalities sell better to certain personalities, right? So what most people think a natural born salesperson is an entertainer, right? Entertainers are emotional. They use their hands when they talk. They tell really great stories. And but that doesn't mean that they're a good salesperson, right? So the best salespeople I've ever seen are typically very quiet in social settings, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? But they execute at a very high level, right? So if you give them an SOP for making sales, you know what I mean, or a script, whatever the case is, and you tell them, hey, if you go out and you knock 100 doors, or you make 100 phone calls, or you send 100 DMs, you're gonna get you're gonna have 40 conversations, and then you're going to have 5 people that let you give a full presentation, and then you're going to have 2 closes, and maybe one of them is going to fail credit or won't qualify, and then you can
Hmm.
get 1 sale a day. The people that you can tell that and they're like, okay, well, I want 2 sales a day, so I'm going to knock 200, or I'm going to call 200 times, that they can scale that opportunity. And then as their skills get better and better, that amount of people they have to call, the amount of doors that they have to knock, goes down and down and down. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
to me, it's not necessarily about, all right, I'm an entertainer and I can tell stories, and people like to have me around. It's more about, all right, can I work the system in order to get the result that I desire? Right.
Mm.
And am I motivated enough? Do I have the work ethic to execute? Right. Now, don't get me wrong. Somebody that can tell stories really well is going to be able to sell well. Right. But they're going to be emotional. So
Mm.
depending on how they feel that day is how they're going to sell. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
if they're having a good day, they're going to sell well. If they're having a bad day, they're not going to be able to sell water to somebody in the desert. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So I think it's really important to understand you're not looking for salespeople. You're looking for teachable people that will work hard.
Mm.
As long as you have a good sales program in place. If you have a good sales program, then you can hire anybody for it.
Yeah, I love that. 100% agree with that. And yeah, I feel like when I first started, one of my first businesses we had success with and hired people, and I kind of was in the other camp and like, oh, it's this guy just doesn't get it and he's not good and he can't handle
Hmm.
objections, or but he's doing the work and I just couldn't figure it out why. But as I've grown as a leader and matured as a person and a man, I've kind of just realized it was a failure on my part, just not being a good manager and not having the right structure set up.
Well, and then probably the company's part too. His onboarding training maybe wasn't there.
Hmm.
They didn't prepare him. They didn't set the expectation.
Yeah,
You
that
know what
was
I'm
me.
saying?
Yeah,
That
I didn't do that. Yeah.
I was trying to be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that was my company. So yeah, no, but yeah, no, 100% though. No,
Gotcha.
looking back, and it's definitely a learning lesson for
Yeah,
sure.
100%.
But yeah, man, no, I think that's great. And so, what do you think separates someone? I mean, besides telling stories, is there anything that you think separates someone like that, like comes in and does well, as someone
Mhm.
that like struggles for a bit longer to figure it out?
Like most of the time when you're hiring salespeople, like today, you're typically hiring somebody in their 20s, right?
Hmm.
And so it's going to be pretty important for them to be teachable, you know. So Gen Z, let's talk about, what is it, Generation X versus Generation Z, right? What are we? I forgot. We're
I
X,
think
right?
we're millennials or something, right?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
we're going.
millennials,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Millennials versus Gen Z. Okay, so millennials, and the older generation always thinks that they're better than the younger generation,
yeah.
right? But I don't necessarily think that. I think there's pros and cons, right? You know, we're we're the first like entrepreneurial generation, but at the same time, most of us are still employees, right?
Mm.
Versus Gen Z, like they all want to work remote. They all want to make 6 figures. You know what I mean? They all have these aspirations, right? But Gen Z, they're incredibly fixed on purpose and mission and core values. That's why you see like all of us entrepreneurs kind of gearing our companies for that, right? They need a purpose behind what they're doing. So if you don't have one, it's going to be hard to hold on to Gen Z people. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? And so I think there's this unique breed out there that is Gen Z, that is willing to work hard, that has the entrepreneurial spirit, and that understands the cost of opportunity. Right? Most people, even our generation and the generation before us, came into the workforce and were entitled. You know what I mean? Hey, I should be making this much for having no skills. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Maybe no education. Even if they did have education, they had no work experience, right? And so when you come in and entitled like that, you're willing to take, or you're going to ask for more money, but your employer is basically going to say, hey, they're asking for more money, so I have to get everything I can out of them.
Mm.
Versus maybe there's some Gen Z people out there that will be okay with commission only or less money because they know they're going to learn sales. They
Right.
know they're going to learn so much about the product or the business or the sector that they want to be in. So they're willing to make less for a couple of years because of one of two things. One, the educational compensation,
Mhm.
or two, they're going to be commission based.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, let's get rid of the security and let's do commission. And then I know I can make as much as I want to and I'm not capped.
Mhm.
Or, I'll take a lower amount because I know that there's an education opportunity. Like if I went, if I decided I'm going to be a wholesaler, I'm going to be
Mhm.
the best fucking wholesaler there ever was. I'm going to go work for Kai for free for 6 months, basically.
Mhm.
And guess what you're going to do? I'm working for free. So you're going to pour everything you got into me. You know what I'm saying? You're going to teach me everything you possibly can. And so I'm going to get this education that took you, what, 10 years, 15 years to get? You know what I'm saying? And so obviously I got a wife and kids and I can't do that and
Yeah, no, I
taxes.
take care of you. Yeah, I'll pay you, man.
But anyways, the point is you're going to have one of those two things. You're looking for people that can understand educational compensation as well as, you know, uh, take that risk in order to earn more, basically
Right.
in a commission only type position. So
Mhm.
I think that's the difference right now.
Yeah, 100%. No, I think that's great. I think obviously I don't work for free. I mean, have an opportunity to make money so you don't starve, but
Hmm.
having that mindset though, and just,
Yeah.
being willing to learn and, just know it's, being in it for the long run, like you were saying, is just such a game changer.
Hmm. 100%.
But that's great. Yeah. Yeah. If anyone else has any questions, drop them in the comments. I'm sure you guys have some great questions. Yeah. I'm sure Doug will be happy to answer them. But
100%.
yeah, man. No, so I loved how when we were talking earlier today, we're kind of breaking down. So when you do your presentations, I loved how you kind of broke down, when you gave the offer, all the stuff we talked about
Hmm.
earlier. How do
Yeah.
you do that for different businesses, or like what do you think the best way to present offers is? Like kind of how we talked about earlier.
Yeah. So whenever I'm doing a strategy call is what I like to call it. So,
Mhm.
I do a discovery call, basically like, hey, are we a good fit? And then after that, I'll do a strategy call. And the strategy call is basically I turn into a detective, an investigator. I want to learn basically everything possible about their business. One, I want to learn, okay, about the owner and his mission, why he got into the business,
Mhm.
and what's valuable to him. Typically, I get that a lot of that in the discovery call. And then the next thing is I want everything they can possibly tell me about their sales process. So I'm talking from the time you think about the type of customer you want all the way to that customer has been fulfilled and now we're servicing the warranty, or now we're servicing one of the referral customer or something like that. So everything in between I want to know about, because I'm going to start breaking that down. And then when I have it broken down, I'm going to probably take three things out of there that I know that this company does so well that other companies can't even touch or don't do very well, right? And so if it's a service that is existing, you know what I mean, and I'm just transferring a customer from one service to another, I'm going to basically make sure that in the script that they feel the pain, right? So if I'm talking to a customer, you get the introduction done, you get a little rapport in. So whenever you structure your offer, you're structuring it for them specifically,
Mhm.
not just a standard script, right? I do a lot of my scripts in bullet points for that reason. And so when you get into the qualify, you're going to ask questions about the pain points exist already in the business, right? And so, if I was in wholesaling real estate, you know what I mean, I would say in the qualify, basically, I'm sure you've dealt with other wholesalers that try to give you this crazy low offer for your house, right?
Mhm.
Okay, and so that would be one pain point, right? I'm sure that in the next 6 months, if you don't get rid of this house, that's another 10 to 15 grand in payments, right? So that's another pain point. And then I'm sure that every month that you wait for the market to turn, you're losing equity basically because the price of your house is going down, right? Because it's a trend right now.
Mhm.
And so you're bringing up three major pain points and I'm just making this up on the fly based on the conversation that we
Yeah.
had earlier. And so I'm gonna kind of make them feel that pain a little bit,
Mhm.
because sales is emotional. People don't
Right.
buy off of logic; they buy off of emotion, right?
100%.
So I'm bringing them down here, and then guess what? When I start talking about me and my product, then I'm bringing them back up. right? So now I'm getting into the presentation. I am addressing these pain points that I brought up with them. I'm serving them. I'm making sure that they don't exist anymore when they get our service or when they take our offer for their home. And then, so I'm bringing them back up here. And then at the end of it, I'm painting their new lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? Which is not burdened with debt, or which is not burdened with a home that's fallen apart, or what, you know what I'm saying? So I'm talking about their new home that they're going to be in because they have the cash to get in it from the equity in the house.
Yeah.
And the new air conditioner that they don't have to worry about the air conditioner going out anymore, and the new roof that they have so they don't have leaks anymore, whatever the case is, right? And so I'm painting that new lifestyle for them. And so I've got them coming this way, and when they peak and they're living, almost living in that lifestyle because you just describe it to them, and then I ask them, well, what would you prefer, cash or check? You know what I'm saying? Then I give them the 2-option close. You know, and 2-option close is my favorite close because it's not yes or no. It's 2 options that both benefit me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
love that.
And
Yeah. I
that's
call it
kind of
this or
how
that, but yeah, same thing. It's one of my favorite ones to you.
this or that, 100%. Yeah. Kirby's probably got some really good training too.
Yeah.
You know,
No, that training was changed. That was super helpful for the rest of my career. And yeah, I never really stuck with Kirby, but I'm like, oh, this like, it made sense. And it was great.
Yeah, it was crazy how many people got into sales knowing that they would use it for the rest of their lives, you know? And those were my favorite ones because even if they were just a stepping stone in my organization, or if I was just a stepping stone in their life, then I was completely okay with that. You know, there's a value exchange happening there. And then I get calls from old reps or old managers and stuff like that, and they're thriving in their businesses. Actually, one of my old managers just posted the other day. He's like, "Hey, I'm hitting that 7-figure mark, you know what I mean, in my logistics business, and I need someone that is like more than a CPA to do my taxes. You know, I need to start planning this stuff out. I need to start structuring my entities and everything." And I'm like, "I got just the guy for you, Keith Goss." So I sent him over to Keith Goss, and hopefully they're doing some business now. But it's cool to see that, you know, even if they are just a even if you are just a stepping stone in their journey, you know what I mean? That's pretty cool to have that kind of value for people. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah. You tell, I mean, obviously you're a good giver, and, you know, it's just great to see, you know, people win, and, you know, being able to know that you help them, and even a little bit or a lot. It's just really cool to see other people win that you've helped.
yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, man. So when you're hiring, so kind of going back to the earlier question, it's like when you're trying to attract good people to your sales team, what kind of things do you look for in the interview, or, you know, what do you do like initially to think like, hey, this person, you know, might be a good fit?
Yeah, I was wondering why sorry about that.
Oh, you're good.
I was wondering why my video was so off. It's like it was the wrong camera. So yeah, I was just trying to fix that because I was like, dude, my stuff is so dark right now. It makes no sense. But anyways, so what was the question again?
So like when you're trying to attract like good salespeople to your team, and like you're in the initial hiring process, what do you look for when you're interviewing those people, or when you're doing like the initial hiring process?
So I've got a few strategies for that. If you have an existing team in place,
Mm-hmm.
you go to wisehire.com, and built into Wisehire, they have DISC testing, right?
Mhm.
And so with that DISC testing, you can have your whole team take that DISC test. And this is in general, whoever you're hiring for, right? You have the whole team take that DISC test. And depending on the position you're hiring for, whoever's best at that position, you look at their test results, right? And then the second best, and the third best, and the fourth best, and you'll start seeing a grouping somewhere, right? And so what you do is when you put an ad out for that position, and it doesn't have to be anything amazing. You know, people place too much emphasis on the actual ad when all the candidate is really looking at is income potential, title, and maybe location, right? And so you put your ad out and you start getting applications in. Well, what WiseHire will do for you is it will compare those applications to your ideal DISC tests. So you put the DISC tests in there that are ideal, you highlight them, and then WiseHire will compare them. They'll give you a percentage for each person that applies of how much they match. So the ones 80 and above, you want to interview them first. You want to get them into the office. You know what I mean? And you may even want to offer them a little more than you do everybody else, just based on that. So that's one of the first things I would say to do.
Hmm.
Now, when you're hiring in volume, like you need a large sales team or you're hiring like 5 people at once, that means you're probably going to have to get around 100 applications, right? Because then 20 people are actually going to come in, and then 5 are actually going to accept the offer, right? And so when you're doing that, it really isn't about you choosing the right people. It's you having the right program in place that pushes the wrong people out and incentivizes the right people. And so what I mean by that is, because it was my industry, let me just do door to door, right?
Yeah.
So what we would do is we'd have an orientation. So once they agree to the position, we'd have an orientation, and
Hmm.
then immediately after the orientation, they would go eat lunch or whatever, and then the trainer would take them directly out to the field. The mistake a lot of people in our industry made was putting them through classroom training for 3 days, and they
Yeah.
never saw the field, they never saw the doors, they never saw the rejection, which is an issue in door-to-door sales. Like, if you don't know what it's like to be rejected like that, you're going to have issues out in the field. And so the quicker you can get them doing the position, the better. Not actually doing it, but being in it, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
Shadowing
100%.
someone, being part of it. And then, so that'll get people out that don't belong there and keep people in that understand the opportunity and they're okay with the uncomfortability of being told no 4 times before you sell a customer. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So to me, it's more when you're hiring for volume, it's about the systems. Make sure you
Hmm.
don't waste your time for too long, and then when you're hiring for a specific position, you want to use things like Wise Hire, DISC testing, and having your candidates go through stages so you can weed it down to the best candidates.
That's great. I love that. Yeah, I learned that lesson the hard way too. Because I've tried both ways, and I started my first business, and the guys that I threw right to the wolves, I was still there helping them, and just I kind of got them on the phone and dealing with rejection, and
Hmm.
getting the reps in. Those are the ones that end up doing the best, and the other ones I'm like, oh, we paid for some. I think it was Grant Cardone's training or something. But you guys got to watch all this, and then
Yeah.
go do it, and then it was like a week later, and then once they finally like got punched in the face and making calls, they just couldn't handle with it, and like folded pretty much right away.
So I've got a story. I've actually been sued by Grant Cardone.
Really, that's
Yeah.
wild.
So this was what is it? What are we in? 23?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was 10 years ago. My door-to-door company started blowing up, right? And so I hired the biggest thing in door-to-door is recruiting because you have a
Yeah.
high turnover rate. So I hired a PR company, and they started putting my name out there, putting my story out there, having me write articles, kind of like old school building your machine, right?
Hmm.
And so I got a offer from Cardone to come do his Power Players TV show, right?
Yeah.
And it was actually a web series.
Hmm.
So if you look up Doug Mitchell Power Players, then you can watch the video. And also, don't be surprised, I'm about 50 pounds heavier, so I'm a big boy in that video. Anyways, so I go. Cardone interviews me. It was really cool meeting him. I had read 10X. I was a fan. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? I wasn't a fan of the show because he tried to like paint me into this like poor kid that came from nothing. You know what I mean? When I
Yeah.
really came, I was a military brat.
Hmm.
And so I didn't come from nothing. And so I didn't like that he was trying to like make the story better than it was.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we did the interview and it was really great. And so the whole idea behind this was because we recruited so much. When you Googled the company, you wouldn't just get the company website, you would get articles about the CEO, which was me. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So it'd be like Argenta Field Solutions, Google it, and then it'd be like Grant Cardone interviews Doug Mitchell of Argenta Field Solutions on Power Players. And so it was like SEO the hard way.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we get done with the interview, and of course, if you guys follow Grant, his right hand man is uh, Jared Glant,
Hmm.
and so there's Jared. We had chopped it up before, became friendly or whatever. And he's like, "So you have 110 salespeople?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And of course, he's licking his lips and
Yeah.
freaking his mouth is salivating. And I'm over here just like starstruck. I just met Grant Cardone. And he's like, "Hey, our software trains salespeople, right?" And so, sure enough, about 30 minutes later, I was signing a 5 grand a month contract for his sales training. And before I signed the contract, I asked Jared, I was like, "Hey, look, this is I recognize this is not door-to-door training, but
Mhm.
it's all the same to me. I can make it make sense, you know what I'm saying, to the guys, but I need help implementing it. Do you guys have an implementation team? He's like, yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. Of course we do. And so I get home, I announced to the company we're using this software, we're spending 60 grand a year on it, all this stuff. And I reach out to his implementation team, nothing. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so I was like, all right, we're gonna implement this ourselves. It didn't, long story short, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
And I'm paying this 5 grand a month. So I contested it. I did the whole court thing, all that, you know, but the problem is he told me that verbally and he
Yeah.
had it in writing. So yeah, he won and he sued me or whatever. So he put a judgment on my credit report and everything, man. It was
Damn.
but you know, I got respect for the dude. Like it's business. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He doesn't know the conversation me and Jared had, and I'm sure that was common practice for those guys, but it is
Yeah.
what it
Number
is.
two guys doing that, just
Yeah.
blatantly lying, and then it doesn't
And
exist.
I'm nowhere near the business owner I
Mhm.
was back then today, right? I did a
Yeah.
lot of that impulsive stuff and I was
Mhm.
24 years old. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, that's wild, man. Yeah. So what? So like they just couldn't get out of the contract? Is that what it was about? They just
oh
wanted you
no,
to
that
keep
thing
paying?
was ironclad. There's a
Yeah,
reason that dude's freaking uber rich and a
that's wild.
billionaire.
Yeah, man.
There was no
Yeah,
way I
that's
was getting out of that.
yeah. I did. So yeah, we did the training. I had just the one thing, and then we all shared like the password login. Hopefully, I don't get sued by Grant too. But yeah, we just had the one thing, and yeah, we just all logged into mine, and we just would watch it. But yeah, it's like he was like even at that time, that was like quite a while ago. It's probably like 7, 8 years ago. And like Grant was
Uh-huh.
like 20 years younger in those videos, and just like an old green screen. I'm like, what is this? There's like a couple good things in there, but yeah, most of it was like super fluff.
Yeah, exactly. That was my
But
issue too.
yeah, it's like super repetitive. But there's yeah, I'm a big fan of like Bobo is a good book, and yeah, I've gotten some other good stuff from him. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's that's wild though. But yeah, man, no, I'm super excited to have you at the event, and yeah, hopefully you guys, if you listen, if you have any questions, definitely drop in the comments. But love to see you guys there. I think we have what like a week and a half, 2 weeks,
Dude,
I don't know,
I
eight,
was just
19 days.
talking to yeah, I was just talking about you to oh man, what is it? Austin Hughesly and then John Hanlon. Have you met
Oh,
John
okay,
yet? Yeah.
yeah, I know John. Yeah.
Yeah, I think John and his partners in their construction business are going to come hang out with us for the real estate syndicate live.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
I meant to DM him and just invite him because yeah, we love John and Laura. They're great. Yeah, I'll reach out to him too. Yeah, I want to reach out and invite him. But yeah, no, I'm excited, man. It should be a good time. So yeah, if anybody else wants to come hang out, it's going to be a good time. We're at Jazz, Texas, which is a pretty cool spot in San Antonio down at the Pearl. And yeah, we got Doug and a bunch of other powerhouse speakers coming. So
Hmm.
hopefully it'll be some great stuff.
Yeah, I thought we could go to the video on your Facebook page and see who's commenting what, but I guess not.
What is it you're looking for?
This video on the Facebook page.
Oh, on the Facebook, you should be able to.
Yeah, I
Or
thought so
it's
too.
yeah, I'll get to you after if not. But yeah, it's so we can see. So it looks like it was Jerry. So yeah, Jerry Gherkin. Thanks for hopping on, Jerry. We
Oh,
got to catch up,
Jerry.
man. Yeah, Jerry's the man.
Jerry's the man, dude. That dude could sell ice to Eskimos.
Yeah. I think that's funny. So I love was it salt to a slug or there's like I've heard
Yeah,
so many funny ones. I always like love when
all
people
the
come up.
analogies. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've
Yes.
heard some pretty inappropriate ones too from my buddy Wayne Skinner.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's funny. I'll have to share some of those with me. Yeah, those ones always
yeah.
make me crack up. I'm like,
Hmm.
so creative. But yeah, that's awesome, man. But yeah, no, I think sales is obviously vital. It's the lifeblood of anyone's company. If you don't have sales coming in, you don't have money coming in, and pretty soon
Hmm.
you don't have a business. So what are like you do a lot of consulting, you work with some super high level companies.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you see like the biggest mistakes people are making, or things that they should address?
So and I'll say this, give yourself some grace if you are making these mistakes because, I just consulted with a company that's doing 11 million a year, right? And they don't have a script,
Hmm.
which is mind blowing, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of their business is in home appointments with customers,
Hmm.
but they have such an amazing culture and an amazing leader and amazing people that it's like that makes up for it, if that makes sense. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So now that they're bringing me in to build out their sales program, dude, it's just going to be exponential growth, you know? And so this is the time, I feel like I started doing full-time consulting at a really good time because, last year there was a lot of artificial growth,
Mm.
right? Artificial growth in real estate, artificial growth in all of our bank accounts, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it was very hard not to close last year,
Mhm.
right? Because everybody had extra money. Government was handing it out like candy, you know what I mean? So people were spending money, a lot of artificial growth in the economy, right? And I don't think we're going into a recession. I just think we're going back to where it should be. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so, with all that being said, a lot of people made a lot of sales last year. They're probably riding high right now. And they're probably starting to realize, hey, what I'm doing before isn't really working, you know?
Yeah.
And so, what I would say is audit your sales program. And a simple way to do that is to use Kodak, right? If you've listened to any of
Mm.
my podcasts, especially the first and the second one, that's where I lay it all out. But just walk through, okay, my compensation. Is it simple? Is it scalable? Is there multiple products? And is it comparable to the marketplace? All right, very simple. Opportunity, same thing. Can I explain it on one sheet? And is it comparable to the marketplace? And also, am I developing or in development? Am I developing my people in the product knowledge, in the sales knowledge, leadership, and self development?
Yeah.
Right? Am I developing their mindset? Am I developing their understanding of an LLC, taxes? How to make them more successful at life.
Mm.
That's incredibly important. And so operations is the next piece. It's like, okay, if my salespeople come in and tear it up, am I actually going to be able to fulfill that product? Or am I going to have issues with fulfillment like I used to in solar? I think I told you about
Mhm.
that. And then the last piece is the most important. I need to look at my culture. Do I have plans in place to develop and to grow culture? Because that's one of the most important pieces, right? Do I have cool stuff like, Kai has all over the place talking about his event? You know what I mean? Same thing for the internal piece of the company. Do I have logos on my hats? Do I have shirts? Do I have wristbands that talk about the mission statement? You know, and am I intentionally developing the culture? And so that's the easiest way to audit your sales program. Some of the things that I see not happening is the SOPs.
Mm.
They're boring. They're not sexy. I mean, and when you're writing them, you feel like you're writing them for stupid people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But you've been in the business for 10 years, and unless you want to be in the same position in another 10 years, you need to start writing out those SOPs. Something as simple as, like, if you're in the home services business, don't park in people's driveways. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Park on the street, right? When you knock on the door, do a soft knock first, wait a few seconds, and then do the loud knock in case they have kids sleeping or something like that, right? Um, and so there's these little things that you do naturally and that are nuances to you, but they need to be part of your SOPs. And then it can be the back office stuff too. When we get the uh, contract from the back from the customer and it's signed, what's the next step? You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And making sure that that process is SOP. One, you never know if one of your people can get hit by a bus and all the knowledge that you had for them is up here in their head. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And now you got to reteach it to somebody else versus somebody coming into the company and having a step-by-step process to follow, and then you get to fill in the gaps for them, which is a lot easier than training them from scratch, right?
Yeah.
And so SOPs are incredibly important and incredibly important to a sales program as well. And so that's probably the number one thing I see them not doing. And
Mhm.
then understanding sales flow. I've been doing some pretty cool stuff with sales flows lately. Um, Trying to see if I could share any of them. You know what? I can share my own. Am I able to share?
Yeah. 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 I think the button's somewhere on your side. I'm not sure where, but I know other people have shared.
Okay, so
For
I
me,
got
it's
one
like in the
for
middle.
a solar sales process.
Mhm.
There we go. All right, so this is a sales flow, right? And so this helps you understand basically from the time that the setter is out in the field, and what technology are they using, what's the disposition that they're going to use for that technology, and then where does it go from there? Does it go to Calendly or Google Calendar, right? And then Google Sheets after that. Once it zaps over to the Google Sheet, and then once it gets to the closer, what program is the closer using, right?
Mm.
And so what this does is it brings somebody new to your company and helps them understand what is the customer journey from the lead all the way to a closed deal, and then how is that customer going to interact with the closer, the software, and the CRM, right? And so from Interflow, once we do the proposal, we go into Sales Rabbit, and that's where we disposition the appointment as ran or not ran. And if the appointment's ran, was it a credit fail? Was it a follow up, or was it sold?
Mm.
Right? If the appointment wasn't ran, then they go into a follow up campaign, a no show campaign, and they get rescheduled, and the appointment gets set again. So we're going back around, right? If they were sold, all right, now it gets a little sexier. They go into a sold campaign, and at that point they enter a install SOP, and then they go into the customer referral campaign at that point, right? If it's follow up, they go into a follow up campaign, and then they go back to sold, right? Once the CRM prompts them to make a decision. If they credit fail, then they go into a credit campaign. You push them out to your credit partner, right? And then they go back into the follow up campaign, and then they get sold, right? And so this kind of shows you a loose sales process on an SOP, basically. So it's a visual SOP. You should have a written SOP, and then you should have a video SOP for most of the responsibilities and duties in your company.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
badass. That's so cool. I feel like, there's so many like, leads that like get lost in the mix. And I feel like when you have it set up like that, I mean, you're going to know where everybody
Mhm.
is.
Well, and then it's like everybody knows how their CRM works and how to tag people for certain campaigns and all that. But what
Mhm.
about all the stuff outside the CRM? The
Right.
CRM doesn't quite do, you know. And so as a CEO or an owner or a regional or a manager, having this to look on, and when you change things in this as well. And then you're recognizing, hey, 30% of the time they get from stage 1 to stage 2. Okay? And then 30% of the time they go from stage 2 to stage 3. And then like 10% of the time they go from stage 4 to stage 5. All right,
Mm.
why is that conversion rate so low? Let me go investigate that conversion rate and find out what we're doing wrong in that part of the process and attack it and fix it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love that. And then, yeah, especially I feel like when you first join an organization, I remember being a sales rep and just being like, oh, no, I'm supposed to do this one thing, but there's all this other stuff. And it's just can be so
Yeah.
overwhelming.
Yeah, and you and your team across the company being on the same page with this stuff is incredibly important too.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm
Yeah.
sure it's so much different than having something in your head too, and then just having it on paper. So, because I
Hmm.
feel like it's so easy to think, oh, I'm sure this guy thinks the same thing I do and how it works. But, I feel like having it on paper and something everyone agrees on is great.
Well, and what I love about what I do is the reason I'm so intent on talking about the sales program is because if something is going wrong within the sales side of the business, you can
Hmm.
typically look at the sales program and see the issue. But what's beautiful about that is you don't create all this animosity in your team because, oh, the VP of sales is responsible for the sales program and everything's his fault.
Right.
Even though there's operational stuff and system stuff and CRM stuff and, you know, fulfillment and all this that goes into it. So you can always blame it on the sales program versus blaming it on a person, right? Because that's
Mm.
where then you get toxic workplaces and toxic relationships within the workplace. And instead of everybody just constantly saying, hey, there's an issue with the sales program at this point here, let's work on it together and figure out how we can fix it.
Mm. Yeah, what a better approach or just mindset shift that is. That's great.
Mhm.
So one of the things I was grateful to be able to get to do is be able to sit in one of your sales meetings and kind of see, peek behind the curtain a bit and just see, how you guys ran that. And yeah, I was super like blown away how great it was. And even just over a Zoom call, you guys had
Mhm.
everybody there and engaged and everybody knew their core values and,
Yeah.
shared that. Can if you kind of break down the importance of doing those meetings like that and how you guys built such, great like little community there.
So in most businesses fail because of communication, whether it's communication between the customer and the client, or communication within the business, vendors, fulfillment processes, affiliates, whatever the case is. Communication is probably one of the most important things, right? And so one of the systems I operate on is EOS,
Mhm.
right? Most people, especially in your groups, I'm sure know about the Entrepreneur Operating System. I'm actually going out to Dallas next month to become a certified EOS implementer.
Oh, nice.
I'm incredibly excited about it. If you all haven't noticed, I'm analytical, and of course, I'm gonna attach myself to a program like this, because what happens often is I'll go in to do the consulting on the sales process, and I'll end up consulting on their operations too.
Mm.
And so I'm like, well, they're basically getting two things from me at that point.
Mhm.
They're getting a 2-for-1 special. And so if I become an EOS certified implementer, then that's a whole separate pricing structure. So, but anyways, lost my train of thought. What was the question again?
Yeah. So just how do you get everyone on the same page with the
Oh,
core
the
values and just like on the
meetings.
same the team, the meetings?
Yeah. So the thing I love about EOS is it makes you spell all that out and draw all
Mhm.
that out. And so what happens is you realize, well, heck, if my operations team is meeting once a week for these level 10 meetings, then why isn't my sales organization doing the same thing, or the sales department, or the sales team? And so meetings have always been incredibly important to me too, because in sales, that first phone call you make, that first door that you knock on, that first hand that you shake, you're rusty. It's like
Mm.
anything else. When you get up in the morning, you're sore, you got to stretch. When you're a singer, you got to warm up your voice. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with sales. You need to warm up. So what I love about sales meetings is there's always going to be some element of role play that's happening in them.
Right.
You're always going to be exercising your product knowledge, and you're always going to be exercising your sales knowledge, right? And then also it gets everybody on the same page. So I always start the meetings out with good news, right? And typically it's personal, so everybody knows what's going on in each other's lives, and then you create a sense of community and culture, right? And then the next thing we do is company news, and we go through our process there. Then it's product knowledge, sales knowledge, and then some type of role play, and then we're out. You know what I mean? Now, the meeting that we had you in on was a once a week company wide meeting. So, and then we start with the core values at the beginning of every meeting and every company wide meeting. And that's a big deal. And, I learned that from Ryan Stewman and Apex. And basically, I went on a PJ trip with him one time, and it was to Arizona, and it was like a coach con, right? And so it was all these fitness coaches, crazy ripped dudes and stuff, right?
Mhm.
And so he's presenting to him, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna prove this right now. And so he calls on Tyler in the back of the room, and he says, Tyler, what's our first core value? Tyler nails it. And then he goes, Zach, what's their second
Mhm.
core value? Zach nails it. And I'm like, this motherfucker, he's got these guys trained. You know what I mean? And so we started reciting those at the beginning of every call.
Mm.
And it's funny because when we first did it, it wasn't that I didn't have them memorized and I couldn't figure it out, but I wasn't quick to it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And so like Wayne would run those meetings, you know what I mean? And so I always had the notes later on. I always had the notes right next to me. And just in case he called on me just to like make an example, you know what I mean? So I had my mission statement, my core values at the top of my notes ready to go. But yeah, I mean, it really does. It sets the tone for the company. When we did our energy drink, we put the core values on the back. Um, it's a huge part of the culture.
Mm.
When your whole team knows what you stand for, and more importantly, and I know this is something that in our community we always hear about, right? But it really does mean something, and some of us really follow through with it, right? And so, we have these core values. We had them on the back of our energy drinks. We had them on our shirt at
Mm.
MDM. And I find out that one of my regionals isn't living by the core values. And actually it's affecting the company, like at
Right.
a very legal level, just put it that way, right? And so I made the decision to cut him loose. And that, the core value that he wasn't honoring was integrity.
Right.
And because I cut him loose based on that core value, like I basically lost $1.8 million in business. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying? And so that was a tough one, you know, and but it brought me to consulting 100%. And like I was talking to Ryan, my producer, the other day about this. Like I literally blacked out when I was training salespeople a couple days ago. Now I don't
Mm.
mean like I passed out. I mean like I got in such a flow state
Hmm.
that when everything was over, I was like, what just happened? You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And I went back and watched the video and I was like, oh my God, I was shooting straight fire. Like, and the salespeople were engaged and they were just loving it, you know? And when I look back on that moment, I'm like, man, it made all the sacrifices I made a year ago based on core values so worth it, you know?
Mm.
And that's what they do. When you establish those, they steer you towards your purpose.
Right.
You know what I mean? And now that I'm in that, I couldn't be more thankful that I made that decision, you know? But that's why we say them at the beginning of every meeting.
Hmm. No, I love that, man. That was great. Yeah, I just think it's crazy too when you share that story, just how like it didn't go the direction you thought it was, and obviously that's a huge loss. And but it's
Hmm.
funny how all that stuff happens and still leads you, where you're supposed to be and on the right path.
Absolutely, man.
Awesome, man. Well, I think we're about to wrap this up. But yeah, if anyone has any final questions, definitely drop some comments. Definitely make sure we hang out and answer those for you. But yeah, man, super excited to share the stage with you. I was
Hmm.
telling Bree earlier, I was telling her a little bit about what we were talking about when your speech is getting about. I'm like, I'm excited to hear Doug's speech, man. I'm like, it's like an attendee. I'm like, I'm excited to hear this one, man. I'm gonna be taking notes. So.
Yeah, I come custom. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
don't want to come up there and just pitch, say the same thing that I've been saying or whatever. I want to make sure that I really drop some value on your audience, and
Mhm.
it's so incredibly hard to do not being in the business, but at the same time, it's not because it's all prospects, leads, sales, fulfillment. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And I've been working in that space for so long, and like you said, positioning offers and making sure that we're efficient in our sales process, and all of that is involved in wholesale. So I'm
Yeah,
really excited
100%.
to join you.
Yeah, that's one reason I wanted you there. I mean, there's a bunch of other people that are good at whole sales and wholesaling, but in my opinion, I think sales is sales is sales, and business is
Hmm.
business. When you obviously they all have their own little nuances and little different things that they do, but
Hmm.
I mean, at a high level and overview, I think there's so many things you can learn from different industries that you can apply to yours. And that's something I learned, reading Jay Abraham's books, the Billion Dollar Man.
Hmm.
It's just looking in different niches and different industries and seeing what you can take and apply to your own business because a lot of people in industry just do things a certain way because that's just the way it's always been done. But when you get outside of that, you can really get some big wins.
So you just said Jay Abraham, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love being in the mastermind that we're in and being around all these amazing people all the time because the alignment is insane, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I was in Colorado Springs working with Neil Farley and his team, Turf Pros, and he had told me that he just not just, but he has been recently mentored by Jay Abraham, right?
Oh,
It's not cheap. You know
no.
what I'm saying? And so he was telling me about some of his strategies in buying businesses. So listen to this one, and I think you'll appreciate this, right? So let's just say a business is profiting 100 grand a year, right? And it's a home service business. Most home services sell for a 3x multiple, right? So 300 grand, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so how do you buy a business with zero down? And I think this is a big part of what Jay Abraham preaches, right? How do you buy a business with zero down? Well, you go in and you offer them 500 grand over the next 5 years.
Mm.
And so why would they do that? Well, because they're still going to make what they're making now, right? And they're going to get 5x without lifting another finger
Right.
because the business already has the cash flow in it. You're not going to come out of pocket either. And anything you grow in the business, you're going to get on top of that. So when you look at like my business consulting, I start off with a very, a transactional engagement, 90 days, 25 grand, right? And after the 90 days, then I get into a rev share agreement, which is like, okay, you're at $1 million. If I get you to $2 million, I get 5% of that, 50 grand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a rev share agreement. So the idea that after 5 years I would own the business outright, even if all it did was cash flow 100 grand a year, It's just fantastic. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But the only reason that the owner does it is because they're tired. They're
Hmm.
tired of running that business. You know what I mean? And they're like, okay, I'll be good for the next 5 years, and then I get to go do something else or go do what I really wanted to do.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And those opportunities are out there, especially right now, because everybody's looking at their year over year
Hmm.
trends, and it's early, but give it about March, April, dude, I gotta buy a business,
Yeah.
especially in home services, because that's my stick, especially on the sales side, right?
Hmm.
And so, because what's gonna happen is they're gonna see their trajectory go down, and
Yeah.
they're gonna be like, hey, I need to kind of offload this thing before it gets any worse. But what do you and I know? You and I know it's just a correction. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah, 100%. Make sure, I don't, Mike, you guys might have already talked about it, but Adam
Mhm.
Lyons and Eve, they're coming to
Oh
to
yeah.
dinner. But I don't know if he's talked to you about evaluations with home service businesses and how that's changing.
Yeah, Adam's a freaking genius when it comes to that stuff for sure. I've
Hmm.
heard him talk a few times now, and I'm excited to hear him talk at your event.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, he's a good dude. I always learn something every time he talks. But yeah, one of the last times I met up with him, he's talking about home services and buying them, and how that's
Mhm.
going to be like probably one of the best businesses to buy.
Really? Okay, so
Hmm.
I'm on the right game. Sweet.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think the valuation is supposed to be. I don't know exactly what it is. I don't know about buying businesses, but that's like
Mhm.
another thing I saw. Just people buying businesses. There's so much similarities between that and real estate. Because the creative
Mhm.
stuff, like you mentioned about buying businesses over long term, you can do that
Yeah.
with real estate too. So it's all transferable.
Yeah, like owner financing with real estate, owner
Hmm.
financing with the business. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah, a lot
Yeah,
of similarities.
I was, and I don't want to go past time here, but I was talking to another guy today. He's out of Indiana, and
Hmm.
he's an electrician. He has an electrical company, right? And so what he does is he gets the owners to sign a 2-year agreement. He flips the house, and then the owner gets the agreed upon price, and he gets the profit from the flip,
Hmm.
which is like, man, I can make my house more valuable and sell it faster, probably not faster after he fixes it up. And I don't have to do any of the work. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Now I don't get the profit from the flip, but still, like, he doesn't have to have any credit for that. He doesn't have to have any leverage. It's just like
Yeah,
it's so
yeah,
cool
that's
what
one of
people are
the
doing.
yeah, it's one of the big buzzwords in real estate right now. Novations, and yeah, people are doing that strategy. But I guess it's
Really,
been
it's called
around for a long time.
innovation.
Yeah, novation. Mhm. That's
That's
what they
cool.
call it. Like the second we don't know what the term means, but yeah, it's like one of the big buzzwords right now. But yeah,
Nice.
that's what they call that strategy. But
Very cool.
awesome, man. But yeah, no, I'm super excited for the event. And yeah, I appreciate everybody hopping on. If anyone has any final questions, let us know. We're about to wrap up here. But yeah, man, I'm super excited. Man. We got so many solid speakers, and we got
Hmm.
you. We got I had to pull the list. I think we got like 13 speakers.
Yeah,
But
you got
yeah.
John Loudermilk,
Hmm.
Adam Lyons. You got your boy Chris.
Hmm.
He's supposed to be the wholesaling goat. And then, oh, Justin Nelson. If you guys
Yeah,
haven't
Justin
heard
Nelson.
Justin Nelson speak yet, dude, first of all, he's gonna sell you. So if you're gonna show up, you better be ready to buy VA services because it's over for you. Once he walks you through how he leverages VAs, it's insane.
Yeah.
I do the same thing in my business. So, but yeah,
Hmm.
a lot of amazing speakers. Dustin Baxter, I
Hmm.
connected with him about a week ago. That dude's gonna crush it in Austin real estate, man. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
No, I'm excited too. Well, man, I appreciate your time, man. Thanks for coming on, man. What's the best way for people to find your podcast? It's one of my favorite podcasts.
Yeah.
Tremendous amount of value. And how do they connect with you?
Yeah, so the podcast is Building Great Sales Teams. But if you want to connect with me, just TXBIZ Dad. So TX Biz Dad in any social media. That's my handle on there: Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, I think. Yeah. No, YouTube's Building Great Sales Teams. But that's how you can connect with me through social media: Facebook, Instagram, TX Biz Dad.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks again. And guys, if you want to come hang out with me and Doug, again, February 15th, it's going down in San Antonio. It's going to be 12 to 5, and if you get VIP tickets, actually VIP sold out, but you can get general admission tickets still. And that's, so if you want to get 50% off, so it's like $47 or something, this week's the last week to do it. Just use promo code Syndicate. And yeah, look forward to seeing everybody there.
All right.